I've been in the digital marketing and technology space for a few decades, and I love pop culture. And there's been a lot of talk these days of trends and Gen X music and things coming back to light. The other day, I was watching an eBay commercial, and Mike, the K7 song, Come Baby Come, was the eBay backtrack. And I'm
Yes.
seeing it everywhere. My daughter is back understanding what Green Day is and appreciating those bands. And she's thinking that, she's, rediscovering everything, which is really funny. Hence the reason why we're doing this show. And why is Mike here? Well, Mike and I have been together for quite some time in terms of the digital marketing spaces. And I wanted to have Mike on to talk about his interesting career with improv and now being a recruiter and having experience across the board with changing careers, taking on different challenges, being a dad, being a husband, and also being part of the Gen X generation. So Mike, if you could take it away, let us know about you, and I'll keep working on the setup here on the back end with comments and questions. So folks, Mike Dwyer.
Well, thank you, Blagica. It's lovely to be here. Thank you for the invite. I was very excited. This is my first LinkedIn Live, so I was really curious to be part of it and excited. Yeah. Yeah, a little bit about me. I'm from Iowa originally. I moved here to become a famous supervisor and go to Saturday Night Live, so that be a second city. And for you folks outside Chicago, you might not know that Chicago is the improv capital of the world, and a lot of folks come here to get out of that track towards being on Saturday Night Live, going into comedy, and being an actor. And that was something that I wanted to do when I came.
Okay, so I really want to talk about this because I did a second city class for a minute. I mean, it was bad. I thought it was funny, but not so much. Improv is hard. So talk about your decision to pursue it.
Yeah.
And was it a difficult decision for you? What age did you know, I want to try this thing and try it in Chicago?
Well, I loved making my parents' friends crack up when I was a kid. I just got juiced by that. I got a real buzz from making people laugh. So that was kind of something that was always in the back of my mind. I went to college. I got an English degree from college. I spent a little bit more time in college than most people, and I'm not a doctor. And then I went into I actually got a job on a professional corporate radio show in I was huge Eastern Iowa. We were the Morning Rock. It was a 5 a.m. to 9 a.m. show Monday through Friday.
What were your call letters? Remember the call letters?
94.1 KRNA, the Morning Rock. And we were the traders. We crushed the Eastern Iowa market. My partner had been a producer for Rancow back in the day.
Oh, wow.
And this is all pre-internet, thank God, because the stuff that we were doing, it was a total crew kind of a place. So it's pretty terrible stuff. In fact, I always said radio DJs are between mimes and clowns on the entertainment. I think that was kind of an impetus for me when I moved to Chicago to do something a little bit more creative. That's more in the entertainment space, but not some of the stuff that we were doing. So that was kind of how. And then I got here, and it was like I got an Improv Olympic. I started doing improv, but it wasn't feeding me. It wasn't housing me. I'd already been starting in college. I just didn't have what it took really to stay through an improv and make it to where you had to do the sacrifices that were necessary. So I fell into recruiting. I got a corporate job at a staffing company. And then that was it. And recruiting has just always kind of been a natural fit for me because of I love talking to people and meeting new people and learning about people and recruiting's a great spot for that. So that was the beginning of it. I still lived in Kansas all up till about 5 years ago. So I was in Kansas for about 18 years.
Wait, what was the name of your crew in Chicago? Was the word play in it?
Playground is the name of the theater. It was on
Playground, yes.
Halstead.
Yep, that was it.
My team's name were called Mustang Repair. So
that was it, Mustang Repair. Sure. And it's interesting that you went into recruiting after improv, because improv, from what I remember, is, always say yes.
Yes.
And, go with it. And it seems like that skill set would have been so helpful and is so helpful right now with recruiting, getting to know the candidate and getting to know what makes them tick to find them the right gig. Yeah. And also staff accordingly to your clients.
Well, whenever I talked about improv with people, they're like, I wanted to do that, and not just necessarily to come famous comedian, but I just want to I want to learn how to use it in the corporate world. I like, and it's very advantageous and helpful in that way because it's all about collaboration, and in building things. And the big challenge as you mentioned is yes and yes and is basically when you go in with seeing what the different person that's you're improvising with. There's no scripts. So you come in and I make a statement, and then the other person has to agree to the statement that I just made, and then add something to it, and then you go back and
Right.
forth. And through that, you build this scene, and you think about, when you're in a meeting and you're trying to, if you're doing a brainstorming session or anything, there's a lot of different places where that yes and aspect could be applicable to working in a company. And so it's been incredibly helpful for me. Also, speaking in front of the corporate people, I'm pretty comfortable with that as well. And, it helps to go and be on stage and fail and be comfortable with it because that happened more often than not.
Because again, being Gen X, and before we got on the chat, everyone, Mike and I were just sharing stories about being a latchkey kid. Many of you can relate to what that was like. Is there anything about your upbringing that you think was helpful or interesting during your path when you were trying out improv and giving it a solid go, but then having that tenacity, but also that kind of, whether it was a parent or a grandparent in your mind saying, you know what, Mike, it's time to try something else and have that stability. What was it you think about how you were raised or your experiences that brought you to that place of, you know what, let me give something else a go and try something out?
I think there's something to just being a white male, girlish, I just was lazy. I was like, I just didn't want to do the work, and the corporate world is easier. It's a lot easier than trying to make it as a famous comedian or actor. So, only about 1% of actors are actually making enough money to live off of that. 1%,
Wow.
very small percentage. And so, just slipping into the corporate world and doing that whole thing through the late 90s and thousands up to today, it just was it was a lot easier. Especially early on, I was just a individual contributor, just a tone in the big corporate machine.
So you get into recruiting, staffing. I know it's called staffing, and then recruiting is also kind of like along those lines. And you've been in it for quite some time. And when I knew of you going into that more professional space, you seem to find this niche with tech and technical recruiting. What was that like? And what did you notice, if anything, in terms of changes back then to now when it comes to that field of technical recruiting?
Yeah, I was passionate about being working in entrepreneurial environments, which are typically startups, right? My first job in-house outside of staffing was at Top Life Salesforce, which it just got through. They just got $10 million of funding from our Schultz from Starbucks here in Chicago, and that was right after September 11th. That nobody was growing, but they were because they had this infusion of cash, and so
I forgot that it was Howard Schultz. I forgot that he's the one who invested and gave them some cash. Wow. Yeah. Okay, that's some fun history.
He came to Chicago. I met him once. I met him his son one time. It was pretty wild. He was big into that third space, and he saw possibility as a potential third space in the restaurant area, the quick serve space. So that was a very entrepreneurial environment, and that kind of what got me hooked on working in a place we were building something. It made, I never liked being a part of something where it's already been done. This is welcome to Company X. This is what you're going to do, and here's how you do it. I was much more excited by building things. I think that was partially because I'm an artist at heart, and I married an artist, and it's a big part of my life. Living vicariously through her. But also, when you're in a startup, you have to be creative. You have to think outside the box to get things done. You don't have all the resources. And that's what really attracted me to it. And then, of course, it took off, right? It went right up. And so riding that wave of working in venture capital funded companies, where you just, it's limitless, the opportunities was quite addicting.
And having not been on that side of things, but on the recruiting side of things, but with Orbitz and Motorola and seeing all that funding, I actually remember I was at Edelman for a while, and Starbucks was a client. I didn't meet Howard Schultz, but he came to the office and he needed an iPhone plug. I remember I was like, I've got one. And I ran up for the chance to give him my iPhone plug. Here's a plug. And for those of you who just tuned in wondering why we're doing this, this is the Being in the Middle chat, celebrating the sandwich generation with Mike Dwyer, one of my oldest and dearest friends from the early days of Chicago tech and just tweet ups. And I'm going to say tweet ups because you mentioned venture capital in those days. Do you remember that the beginning of social media, after it was like this, it was Web 2.0, then it switched to social media.
Yeah.
We had these events called tweet ups, and it was just, dude, I miss those days. You would just get on Twitter at a bar, and then Colonel Tribune would show up, right? The Colonel Tribune.
It was really similar. I was at a social media marketing agency called the Zoppo Group, which word of mouth marketing is what they called it, And I think that it was a lot more. It was a lot purer back then. There was a lot of optimism. It wasn't as crowded as, of course, it became, where it's noisy or it's divisive. It was more of a uniter than anything of a medium, and that's what everyone was hoping it would continue to be. But then, it was crazy. So.
We just got a comment from Scott Monty, who said that he is the inventor of the tweet up. Scott, I don't know if that's, I'd like some more backup on that, because in Chicago, we call them tweet ups too. So if you can give me a blog post or a timestamp of that, Scott, I just had lunch with Scott Monty yesterday, and he's going to be on. So Scott, I just gave you public pressure to visit us.
On Twitter, you can ask for your direct transcripts of all your tweets.
I know, but I actually deleted mine.
Okay.
I did.
There you go.
When certain things started to happen in our country, I decided from a digital standpoint, because my name is so unique and funky, I decided to delete many things. And I actually want to thank Scott Smith for that, because Scott Smith, I think, did a bunch of deleting, as did Tracy. Tracy also did the same. And I decided to do the deletion of tweets. Scott Monty just said it's documented by the Oxford Dictionary of English, March 2007.
Oh my God. Mic drop. Wow.
So, ladies and gents, if you're watching now or later, Scott Monty, who used to be the head of social media at Ford, just confirmed that he invented the word tweet up, and it is in the Oxford Dictionary. So, Mike, you and I were here. He just posted the link in the comments.
We're living in his shadow. We've all been living in Steph's shadow. So I get it.
But going back to those days, I remember when there was a tweet up at that bar that is now, it's next to the Hard Rock? Was it Crimson? Remember when Jerry Taft from ABC 7 Chicago, the weatherman, showed up? He came to the tweet up.
We tweeted him. Pepper canister over?
No, we did some there, but then there was
Hard Rock. Yes.
Next to the Hard Rock, that bar that's now a bowling alley.
Yeah.
Jerry Taft showed up. Anyway, wild times. And I referenced the tweet ups and how it was optimistic, and we're talking about technology, and it was fast, but it was just seemed more community driven and real.
Yeah.
And fast forward to where we are now, I wanted to ask you, in your recruiting career, because obviously if you want to share, I know that you have your own practice. If you want to share your practice and what you focus on, that this is a great time to do that, so folks know how to reach out.
Well, I started my own business. I was in I've been laid off 3 times in the last 10 years within tech space, and so I'm doing staff campaign recruiting on my own through a company called CareerWorks, and which Career is my tour handle.
I remember.
And it's done that since 2008. And then I'm also doing some fractional work, offering fractional services to companies that might want to go through a lot of growth and need a TA function, but they don't necessarily see that as something they're going to need long term. I think in several of my layoffs, I probably could have been a fractional leader for a year, and you could have had me go and because typically I come in and build out a team, build out the process, implement technology, and then we scale really fast. And then a lot of times, there's a downward side. The person who's, supposed to be there to help growing, let go.
Well, that's helpful. And then how can folks contact you? I'll post it later as well, but what's the way to contact the company?
Just through my LinkedIn, Mike Dwyer.
Okay, perfect.
That's all through LinkedIn. All LinkedIn, maybe.
Great. And We have another celebrity who joined us on the comments, Rick Wyan, who
Oh
I
my
believe
God.
Rick was at Mickey D's at McDonald's, and he also agreed with you that Pepper Canister on Clark was a great place to have a tweet up. So if you're watching this, we are going down some Chicago memory lane because it was an amazing time in the world of social. I had some of the best memories. I was engaged during that time, Mike. I got preggers during that time. The free pizzas from Ramon, Domino's Pizza. Those were some great times. So let's talk, because obviously this is a Gen X conversation about folks going through various parts of their lives via Gen X. And if you've just joined us, Mike's talked about his experience working in first the Chicago improv scene with Improv Olympic. People also say it's, was it Improv IO? What's the other word? IO. It's called IO.
Was trying to sue that. So
Oh yeah, I forgot. That's right. And then I'm going to recruiting, but now you've kind of touched base about career. And this is what's really been near and dear to my heart with what I'm seeing. Friends of mine, former colleagues, I'd say 42, 43 plus, whereby folks are changing jobs. There's instability when it comes to work in general. And people are trying to figure out what's next. And given the voluminous nature of LinkedIn posting things. Now, I've gotten some slack for this, but I just want to clear it up. I don't want to blame LinkedIn for recruitment and ghosting, but I'm hearing more often than not of folks taking all this time to apply to a job, and they're maximizing the bot-driven technology of AI to get the resume as souped up as possible, only to not hear anything, or they have calls with the recruiter and they're ghosted.
Yeah.
And at the end of the day, feedback being, if you don't know the hiring manager at a company, it makes no sense to apply. Right. And it's happening so much to folks in their 40s right now.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say a lot of folks who are used to leading and leading teams. What are your thoughts about careers, jobs, and shifts when it comes to folks in this Gen X world?
Well, first, I'll give you just a little insight. Heading up in-house recruiting for the last decade and kind of any startups. What's happened from their standpoint is the recruiting teams have been decimated. They are, because growth is kind of at a standstill, especially within tech companies. The recruiter there's one recruiter working on all the roles, and they are overwhelmed. And then there's so many candidates in the marketplace that it's a lot. And so they're fearful of losing their jobs, right? And so they're trying to tee up people to their internal clients that are just the most perfect fit for the role. And I don't think they're pushing back as much as they used to. And they're still, if a hiring manager might not necessarily be experienced at really assessing people for the skills that they bring to the table versus what's on their resume, then they're getting missed, and the recruiters are not able to take the time to really dig into people that might not necessarily be a perfect fit for the role, because there is somebody out there that is, and they're able to get them. So they just move on to people very quickly. But this is an issue that's been going on for a long time, right? Because thing is, it's always happened, and
it's so much more now.
There's so much more now because of the bandwidth of these folks, but there's also there's good people in this battle, people that are good at their job and people that aren't. There's recruiters that are good at their jobs that would never ghost someone and that are always going to follow up with everybody that they talk to. And there's just some that don't, or they don't manage expectations appropriately. So, the market in general, though, is very tight. And so there's not as many opportunities. There's more people out there, and it's happening across the board. I talked to a product manager the other day, and he's talking about leaving product management, in a tech company, because he doesn't see enough opportunity out there for him. And I think that's crazy, but he might have to do that.
Okay, so scenario. What advice would you give to someone? I'll give you different scenarios. Someone's in their mid-40s and they were in the public relations field. I know that you're a technical recruiter, but I know that your skills can translate to other verticals.
Yeah.
Someone's a VP someplace for quite a long time. They led a team of 10. And the next thing you know, because of AI and seeing the efficiencies creatively in copy and text, the team gets down to 4.
Right.
And then from there, perhaps they lose their position because of their salary or their benefits and what that might do for the company's bottom line, and their work is distributed elsewhere.
Right.
What would you say to that person of, whether they find something else, or is it a conversation about enhancing skill set to find something else and enter this new machine learning world? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it's about, it's sitting down and really giving your career a hard thing, and looking at what your strengths are. And, companies are looking for doers right now. They're not necessarily, that's why there's a lot of leaders out of work, I think, because they're looking for those people that are going to do, not necessarily be ones overseeing. If you are a leader that is an expert in PR that is getting out, is getting downsized due to the technology changes, I think that you should be becoming an AI expert, because it's going to be a person always behind the AI. It's not going to still do everything on its own. And so being someone who understands and is an expert in how to really use AI to write the best press release, or to, be making it a strategic tool that's effective, would be something to do. And that would be too much. I think what you can do these days is be a consultant who also is open and permanent opportunities, and, go out and sell yourself, get into an organization, get some experience to build a relationship, and then also maybe move into that company on a permanent basis. But it's I think that the world is fractioning a lot more. I'm a part of the fractional people. It's a group that I co-founded. It's back in November. There are about 20 of us in there. It's a Slack community, and now there's probably over 300 or 400 people in there since November, and we're all HR leaders.
Wow.
From tech companies. I'm talking to powerhouse people, and then women that are sick of it. They're tired of working in house. They're burned out, and they are getting opportunities. Recruitment has been very slow for a while now. And I'm in this group and I'm watching these people talking about how all the wins they're getting. There's business out there. Companies have an appetite for this type of a model. And so, especially if you want to senior your career, it could be an opportunity there, for more fractional work where you're not necessarily committed as much, the company isn't committed as much. You have more flexibility in your life to live it, but also to be working and just doing different types of things, and really bringing kind of your years of experience and ability to embrace ambiguity, ramp up quickly, all the things that you had to do in your career, and bring that into a company to help them build something out, but then ultimately leave. I don't know.
You said something that it keeps, when you hear certain things that just kind of like, oh, that's interesting. That should be a poster. When you said companies are looking for doers more than leaders, I think that's interesting. And I've talked to you about this and other friends about being a practitioner, still doing the thing. That's why I'm doing this. I thoroughly enjoy creating and building new things because my mind's always going.
Your mind
and I
is
wonder,
always going, Blagica.
I know. My mind is always, it is.
You can power a small city with your brain. You really could. You can have some things doing a small city. Detroit could run on your brain.
Mayor Duggan, are you listening? Mayor Duggan, there you go. But I also, would argue that if I was a dude with the way my mind thinks, it would be, oh, they're so innovative and they're so, it's very interesting. But when you said doer versus leader, I think that's an interesting sell for a lot of folks who have been, I'm talking VPs, SVPs, and I don't know if that might seem to some, and let's, many of you know me from a black and white perspective. I like talking about hard things. Do you think, Mike, that that's seen as a demotion to many people who have led teams and now are be expected to do more of the doing and running the thing and doing the thing and pulling the report on the thing versus sitting back with, all right, Sue, John, and Timmy, figure it out and come back to me? That's what I'm wondering. I'm wondering if there's a bit of pride here that Gen Xers, I feel like I'm on an episode of Mr. Dress Up. Have you seen Mr. Dress Up? The Canadian it was Any Detroiter Mr. Dressup was a great Canadian. He was like the Canadian Mr. Rogers kind of sorta. But anyway,
Oh,
yeah. What do you think about that?
I agree. I think that I'm doing it. Yeah, I had to check my ego, right? Like it was a year ago, January, when I kind of came to the conclusion that I was done with working in house and being the you know the VP of talent acquisition. I'm not. I didn't. The ego was over,
Mm-hmm.
And when I took my first contract role, right? Not as a contractor, but just placing people for a tech company and being paid a fee for it. And I made my first placement. I loved it. I was just a recruiter. I'm an individual recruiter. Love it. And I love the work. I get to meet people. I get to meet companies and know what they do. I work with technologists. And I get to run my own business and do whatever the hell I want. I absolutely love it. And I didn't think I would, but I did it first. I tried it. It worked. And I was sold, And so I think for people out there that are thinking about it, it's just your drive work. You should just try it and just do it. Just do it. Just do it.
Okay, so let's throw it. That was good. Sorry. By the way, side note, did you see the uniforms that Nike created for the Olympic team?
Yes.
I'm just saying it's interesting. There's not much to be imagined with the ladies' uniform is all I'm going to say. So Nike, I mean, much respect, but I mean, come on. When you said I just tried it, I didn't want to. Let's go back to the Gen X thinking potentially.
Yes.
What do you think is holding people back? Because you said, I tried it, I liked it. Ooh, this is cool.
Yeah.
Similarly, I love doing my own thing. I love being able to weave in and weave out of projects and really dig deep and be that problem solver and make my partner or client a rock star with their team.
Right.
So let's talk about that in terms of the risk.
That's a great segue. I think me, the latchkey kid. I can do all on my own. Just tell me what you need me to do, and I'll go up and do it. I also, for the longest time, I never questioned. You don't question authority. You just do what you're supposed to do, and you're happy with that. And then you move up through the career path. And for the longest time, I was always entrepreneurial within my job, but I still was just a part of the machine. And I knew nothing else, because, like you talk to Gen Z's and new millennials, they question things all the time. Like, why don't I have to do that? Why don't you do that? I could do this it can be much easier.
Why am I staying past 5:30?
Right, why? I never would do that. And a lot of times don't question any of that. They just did it. You sucked it up, you did it. But, the same way you got in their way. And I think that it was just more about having I don't know, I just woke up, to it. But it took me getting laid off a number of times. And, I have a family, and then that's concerning as well, But I think I just had to, it was just very eye-opening. And also, and I had to do some sacrifices. I took my retirement out, to start. That was hard, but I wouldn't have it any other way, really, now.
And even what you've shared about, you were laid off sometimes, you had experiences there. I've gone through my own decrease of workforce, especially thinking about the time at Motorola, when I was at Motorola Mobility and Google bought us. And I'll never forget when Google officially said they're going to buy us. And before the transaction was final, these wonderful young Googlers came to Chicago to talk to us about our jobs.
Yeah.
And these kids were probably teenagers when I was at Orbitz, creating the stuff that they were going to use later. I remember sitting in that conference room thinking, I'm done. I just know that it's going to happen. And then ironically I got pregnant with Nico, and then that happened, a few weeks later, which was hilarious. And no, people asked me why didn't I sue for wrongful whatever. That made no sense. There was no case. But I've been through it. Folks have been through it. And I think Gen X is also afraid to share some of those experiences, like what you just shared. I went through this and it sucked. And here's what I had to do to make it work. When Michael and I built the virtual side of Bottles Nation, that's because we had no choice. So the pandemic struck, as you know. I was consulting, all that stopped. and Michael was primarily IRL. His events were in,
Yeah,
and we sat there and I thought, well, shoot, okay. Then we were having dinner one night and Michael went, it'd be so cool if we did this online. I went, hold that thought, watch the kids all weekend.
I'm going to the lab.
We were living in New Buffalo. We had an office and I shut the door, only came out to eat and use the bathroom. And I built the online version of it because we had to. We needed to do something, and it took off and it did well. But it was a risk. So I think Gen X needs to be a bit better about the story that you just shared. And it's kind of like growing up, you don't talk about money. I think Gen X is also taught you don't talk about your perils. Like you said, put your head down, get in early, leave late, you zip it, you be thankful for a job, you save your money, and so on and so forth. Yeah. So I think it's really admirable that you had this experience and you're sharing this with others and how to do it. So if anyone's watching and just clicked on and the algorithm showed, what's this live thing Blagica's doing, this is Being in the Middle, a first of many conversations about celebrating the sandwich generation and being Gen X. I'm joined by a really good friend of mine, Mike Dwyer. We've known each other for years from the Chicago days when social was kind of taking off, but it was this, you kind of would say, utopia of hilarity and social media and conferences and Blog Her and South by. Mike started out as an improv actor in Chicago and transitioned into his really great career in recruiting. Now he works from South doing fractional recruiting work. So if you have any questions, comment here as well. So Mike, I want to shift gears a bit, and you're also a dad and a hubby.
Yes.
I've met your wife, Lorena. She's fantastic. You have 2 children, and your children are of varying ages. So I think you have one preparing to go to college right now.
Yes, 20 years old, Champagne. Yeah, she's.
It's decided. Oh, congratulations! I didn't know.
She's going to now. She got accepted to the engineering program. So
engineering. Cool. Yeah. So does she know what faction of engineering she wants to go into?
Well,
specifically,
she's with the robotics team at
of course she is.
Aft, and so that's something she's very excited about. And so she is kind of along those lines, but she actually doesn't. She was doing more of the programming, so I think she's looking at software engineering. It's the area that she's got focus.
I wonder if she knows anybody in her life that can help her get, a job. That's
she's on LinkedIn. I've got her on LinkedIn, of course, and she's only. I connect her with people. She's already connected with Colleen Egan and
Colleen's great. Yeah. Hi, Colleen.
She's awesome. So she's connected with her already. I found her to that. She met Colleen in person. She's making the rounds.
So let's talk about, because really, I love being a mom and I love being a parent, but it is tricky to manage it all. Mm-hmm. Let's talk a bit about, Angie, your daughter. What was it like for you and Lorena as she was exploring colleges? And don't need to go to, too much detail, of course, but one of the challenges of Gen X is college and the cost of college and decisions. Do you have any feedback or advice about that process and how it was for you all? Yeah. And any notes you can give to those of us? I mean, Lily's only 14, but she's already thinking about where she wants to go. And I'm like,
I'll tell you, it's like when people talk about being married, after getting married, I always had this one piece of advice that's like, get a day out planner. That's my big advice. That was the thing that I wish I had when I was doing married. Get a planner for that day, because you might think you've already set everything up, and then you get into the day and it's just all roll. No, it's not.
Complete madness.
Same thing for colleges. My wife had come across the college consultant, and I thought she was pretty. I was like, we need a college consultant. What's that person need to do? I mean, that's a lot of money. Worth every penny.
And you're the third person who told me this.
She was great. She was a great woman. She came to our house every week for an hour so we could jump in and listen and provide feedback. And she just did a great job of kind of setting her up. And, she did a personality test to test, where she was at, so that she would find the best fit for her when it came to what she wanted to do with her life at this early stage, right? Like, what are things about her personality that are, make her more lean towards one thing. Like, for instance, teaching was something that came up in the cards a lot for her. And that might be something she wants to do later, but, for now, software engineering was an area that was a big focus to her. Of course, I've always pushed her for that. I believe that there's not enough women or people of color in engineering specifically, and so I'm always trying to get that to happen. And I was able to rub off a little bit.
Do you know Veronica?
Veronica.
My friend Veronica, to introduce you, Veronica works at UIUC, but she's also into promoting the same thing that you're talking about.
Oh,
so I'll make sure to
cool.
introduce you to offline. I think
Yeah.
Angie should really get to know her. Yeah. So you hired someone and helped her get in. So, and I'm so jealous of that because when I feel like college today it's stressed the importance of fit. I think that's so huge. The fit for your kid,
Right.
of where they go, what makes sense for them, and taking that time. Do you have any advice for parents now who are preparing financially? I mean, the stress of mindset. I'm in the mindset of if my kids rock at something and they get into someplace, like it's no secret, I've mentioned it quite a bit on social. Lily is obsessed with Northwestern and she thinks, that's it, I'm going. That's it, I'm going. If she gets, I'm okay. If she gets in, who am I to say, nope.
Right.
But do you have any advice for parents when it comes to that financial ticket? Do you think about it? Or do you think, you know what, it'll pay itself off? Or what are your thoughts around guidance for parents who are in that boat right now?
That's a tough one. I think, it just depends on where you're at financially, but, I know that loans are is a bad word these days, but I think instead of it's more of a hybrid model of, hey, we're going to pay some of this. I might have to take a couple loans. Hopefully, you can get some scholarships, that type of thing, but we'll make it happen, And I'm really pushed her on the scholarship front. She has some good scholarships to Little and
Nice.
all, but not to University of Illinois because
Of course.
it's the best engineering school in the country. And they're like, yeah, well,
It is.
Oh, you want to come here? Okay, I got 1,000 other people right behind you. So, but I think that said, it's more of a hybrid model I would recommend, and that it'll work. It'll all work out. That's what I tell people, tell myself, it's all gonna work out.
And a little more trivia for folks who are watching. As you know, I'm physically in Detroit, but I spent a couple decades in Chicago. Folks don't know that the University of Illinois and their, computing center, I think it's the Center for the National Computer, whatever, something National Computing System or Division. The founder of Netscape, Mark Andreessen, finished out of U of I, and the co-founders of YouTube, U of I.
Yeah.
So and it's lovely that you're doing this because Illinois did for a while experience quite a bit of brain folks getting their degrees at IIT or U of I and leaving for the coast. So hopefully, JB, if you're watching, I know you want to keep that talent in Illinois. Same thing with Grach in Michigan when it comes to, we have so many software engineering jobs in Michigan, especially with mobility, with EVs and AVs. It's crazy. If Angie wants a job here, I'm happy to be her big sister.
Yeah, sure. That would be awesome. I think she could be interested in that. Yeah, I mean, the brain drain's still happening here. The Chicago
really
is not doing great, I don't think, from my perspective. I think it's struggling a lot.
Wow.
And part of that is the venture money is drying up, but part of it is there just has not been a lot of success stories here, as many as there should be, for the amount of time that we've been investing in and having, tech companies here. But it's not been great. So I would love for the brain drain not to continue to happen, but it's hard for the reason for it if there's not the opportunities here.
Yeah. Well, let's talk about the other spectrum, Tomas.
Tomas?
Your little boy. Tomas. So Tomas is 5. What is it like to be a Gen X dad and you have an amazing woman going to college and prepping for this killer career? Yeah. And then you have this 5-year-old who is learning and being molded. I saw this picture of him. Was it a fedora? He looks like a little, in Macedonian, the word for grandfather is dedo. He looks like a little dedo so much, the way that he just does his thing. What is life like with a 5-year-old? I mean, as a Gen
Xer, he's been watching Star Wars since he was 1. He's the Mandalorian is his hero. He's pop culture. He's firmly infused in all those things because I'm a Gen Xer, and he is. He's kind of a single kid, right? Because she's 18, he's 5. Mm-hmm. She's going to go to college soon. So he's on his own a lot. And, so I spent a lot of time with him, kind of being his cow. Because I have that flexibility with my job, and my wife's fairly busy. She has like 3 jobs. So, I spent a lot of time with him and just stay present and enjoy it. That phrase, the days are long, the years are short. And I say
Oh
that
yeah.
all the time when it comes
Oh yeah.
to just be present, because you're going to miss this.
So I have an admission for you. When you mentioned the days are the years are the days are long.
The days are long, the years are short.
Yes, the days are long, the years are short. Because of that phrase, and being a Gen Xer, but also in an immigrant household, there was a lot of things I couldn't do. And my parents were incredibly strict, and I'm so thankful for that. So thankful. The stories and the way they raised me, and my husband and I tend to be pretty strict with our daughter. But one thing I decided to do, because of what you just said, are those memories. There will be memories of things they get to do that I want to make for her. So in the spirit of that, Taylor Swift's album comes out tonight at midnight.
Mm-hmm.
And my daughter has asked and begged for months if she can skip school on Friday so she can stay up and listen to the album and dissect it and whatever.
Yeah.
And at first I said, no, you're going to buck up and you're just going to,
Yeah.
I don't care if it's 4 a.m, go to school. But then I went, that would be a cool memory for her that her mom and dad let her do this. And I looked at her report card last quarter. She's fine. She's doing great. So tomorrow she's going to stay home to absorb Taylor.
Yeah.
And I could do a whole podcast on Taylor. But to your point, that's what I was thinking about. I didn't have that memory.
Right.
My mom did great things for me, but this one thing for her to remember, my mom and dad let me stay home and listen to Taylor, I decided to go ahead and say yes.
I think that resonates so much with me, because my wife's a millennial, and an older man. We have a bit of a difference in age, and she's way more flexible. She was way more flexible with Angie than I would be, because I was like, Jen, I was like, Mom, you suck it up, you get it done, go to school. And then she's more about getting some grades, especially, like, they're a straight student, so it's like, she should get some grades, and I always the one that would be like, no, that's not, and she should just she'd go to school. At the end, basically, my wife, who's bright very often, is right in that circumstance. Small is better to him a little bit of grace, I think, and to create those memories. So I think I get where you're at, and it's really how you struggle, but I think you made the right choice.
Yeah.
I get that.
And if anyone locally is watching this and she's not at school tomorrow, that's what it is. And you mentioned your wife a few times. It's all right. It's what it is. I mean, as strict as Blagica can be, she's not going to school. Let's talk about your wife. So I mentioned this to the folks before the show ran in our chat. And what many folks may not realize, your wife is, you mentioned, very creative and very talented. But your wife has many, many jobs, as you know. If you can share with folks, she's like a network regular on a very popular show right now.
She's been on Chicago Med as nurse tourist for 9 years, and they just got renewed for a 10th year.
Amazing.
Yeah, and it's been an amazing run for her. They said what percent of actors are working enough that they're able to sustain themselves on, so it's a true blessing. And that's one of her jobs. It all gets shot here in Chicago at Center Space, which is one of the biggest studios outside of Hollywood. And then she's artistic director of a Latino-based theater called Teatro Vista. It's been around for about 30 years. And she's been doing that for almost 4 years now. So she's always, being an artistic director of that theater, she's the leader of it. And so she's just grown significantly, works her tail off, but she loves what she does, so it's not work, And I love watching her do that, because it's not always been easy. And so I think that, she's earned where she's at. So I try to support her as much as possible. From a family standpoint, I get to reap the rewards of all her creativity by coming and seeing her plays. She's doing a dinner performance fundraiser coming up in May, and it's going to be spectacular. They signed this artist, this Venezuelan artist that used to partner with Andy Warhol. And I'm watching her go through this whole insane artistic process to get that to come to life together and just possible.
You're such a guy. You're both such a dynamic couple in terms of what you've done. Well, no, things. This isn't about us, but like truly, it's really great to see folks who, I mean, obviously your improv career is similar to what Lorena is interested in, but
that's how
what you're doing now.
depth.
Well, yeah, see, and then, but what you're doing now, it's just it's good to see a yin and a yang in terms
Yeah.
of day-to-day vocations. Thanks for sharing that. And if you aren't watching Chicago Med, you should. It's on NBC. You can find it on Hulu or your local network.
7 o'clock.
7 o'clock Central, right? And so we are winding down our chat. If anyone has any additional questions about Mike or recruiting or life with improv world, let us know. And Mike, I guess we'll close with if you have any interesting or anecdotes or a story or two about you've met so many comedic greats over the years and have been in the presence of some interesting times. Is there anything you'd want to end with that you'd like to share about those improv days that you thought would be hilarious?
God, there's things I could never share on LinkedIn.
Of course.
That would be
right
for me. So
right. See, that's why I knew it. That's why I still wanted to ask the question, because I thought I'd get something out of you, but yeah, maybe not.
I mean, I used to Jordan Peele, Key and Peele, and he's a Chicago professor, and at one point early in his career, he lived on my couch. Actually, to see that he's a massive, mega star, amazing director, and don't be wrong, he was hilarious on stage back then. I think to the point that I said at the beginning of this about why I quit thinking of improv as my life's journey, is that Darren was living on my couch, right? The guy, that's the sacrifice that you need to do if you want to really make that work. And he was absolutely willing to do it. He did it. So it's pretty amazing.
Well, Mike, I want to thank you for being on the first inaugural kickoff of Being in the Middle. This was, it's time actually really flew by.
Is there anybody in the stream? Is it just you and me, or are there other people?
It's you and me. There's commenting earlier, but it's just you and me. But my stream kept catching up and glitching on my iPad. But this is going to be available to be watched later by folks, on LinkedIn and other areas as well. Thank you so much for making the time and just kicking this off. I think I'm pretty stoked. I'm really curious to dig deeper into Gen X topics and what it's like to be that way today. And thank you for being a part of that.
You're
that
welcome.
kickoff. This is awesome.
Thank you for having me. This has been really lovely.
Awesome. Well, everybody, we are going to, it's the first series, so we're going to hit stop here, and hopefully we're done streaming on LinkedIn. And if not, you'll just see me edit along the way and make sure that we cut. So thank you. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next week. I'll be posting who the guest is, and many of you know who she is. So you'll see that soon. Thanks. Bye.
Subscribe and say hi.